The aroma of roasted garlic and rosemary wafted through my parents' Seattle home, a sprawling craftsman in Queen Anne where every family dinner felt like a stage play. I, Emma Carter, 30 years old and perpetually caught in the middle, stepped through the front door 10 minutes latia, quiet rebellion I allowed myself each month. The clink of wine glasses and my mother's laughter greeted me, familiar as the hardwood floors beneath my feet. But tonight, something felt off, a subtle shift in the air, like the moment before a storm breaks over Puget Sound. I had no idea that this dinner would unravel everything I thought I knew about my place in the Carter family and spark a journey to reclaim my own voice. My apartment in Capitol Hill, a cozy one-bedroom with ivy-framed windows and morning light that danced across reclaimed wood floors, wasn't just a home. It was my sanctuary, earned through 5 years of grinding sacrifice. I'd worked late shifts at a Denver coffee shop during college, tutored classmates to keep my scholarship, and pinched every penny while my friends jetted off to spring break in Miami. That apartment, with its exposed brick and secondhand bookshelves, held the weight of every extra hour I'd logged, every dream I'd deferred. It was mine in a way nothing else had ever been, a tangible proof of my independence from a family dynamic that often left me breathless, scrambling for recognition. I slipped into my usual seat at the dining table, the one wedged between my older sister, Lily, and my younger brother, Noah. Lily, 33, was the golden child, her artistic flair celebrated with parent-funded gallery shows in San Francisco. Her latest breakup had her back at our parents' house, her designer suitcase parked in the guest room like a temporary art installation. Noah, 25, was the baby, forever excused from responsibility as he found himself through half-finished coding boot camps and pottery classes, all bankrolled by mom and dad. Then there was me, the middle child, the one who graduated summa cum laude from the University of Denver, who drove a decade-old Toyota Corolla with a meticulously maintained engine because no one was waiting to replace it if it broke. My achievements first in the family to earn a degree, a steady career as an environmental analyst were met with a nod, that's nice, as if they were the bare minimum, not the mountain I'd climbed. Mom, Margaret, presided over the table with her signature pot roast, her smile warm but her eyes sharp, always scanning for harmony. Dad, Richard, sat at the head, his presence commanding, his opinions on Seattle's tech boom filling the room. The dinner followed its usual script. Dad's monologue, Mom's gentle prompts about our weeks, Noah's late arrival met with indulgent smiles. I offered a practiced update about my work sanitized, safe when Dad cleared his throat, a signal I'd learned meant the real agenda was coming. Lily has some news, he said, his tone carrying the weight of a boardroom announcement. Lily looked up from her phone, her expression shifting to practiced vulnerability, a performance I'd seen too many times. My breakup with Ethan was rough, she said, her voice trembling just enough to draw sympathy. He's refusing to cover his half of the lease, so I'm moving out. Mom reached for her hand, her face a portrait of maternal concern. It's just not fair, she said. Lily shouldn't have to deal with this alone. I nodded, the expected sisterly response, but my stomach tightened. I sensed the conversation veering toward me, a familiar detour where my needs became collateral damage. So, Dad continued, cutting into his roast with precision, we've figured it out. Lily will move into your apartment, Emma. It's the perfect solution. The words landed like a stone in still water, ripples of shock spreading through me. My fork froze mid-air, the clink of glasses fading into a dull roar in my ears. Mom chimed in, her voice bright, oblivious. Your spare room's just an office, and you're always at work late anyway. Lily needs a fresh start, just for a few months. Lily's lips curved into a smile, not of gratitude but of entitlement, as if my home was already hers. I sipped my wine, the tartness sharp against my tongue, and forced a neutral nod. Inside I was screaming. My apartment wasn't community property, a spare room for the family to assign. It was my refuge, the one place where I could close the door on expectations and breathe. The audacity of their assumption that I'd simply agree, that my space was theirs to come and ignited a fire I hadn't known I carried. Mom's eyes held that look, the one that said this wasn't a discussion. Dad's casual delivery, as if he'd just reordered the dessert menu, made it worse. And Lily, scrolling her phone again, seemed to assume my silence was consent. Growing up as the middle child in the Carter family meant living in the shadow of Lily's brilliance and Noah's charm. My first-place science fair ribbons were overshadowed by Lily's abstract paintings, hung in our living room like trophies. Noah's failed Venturesa blog, a skateboard shop, were met with encouragement, while my late nights studying were expected. Unremarkable. I loved my family, but their love came with strings, a silent contract that I'd always accommodate, always sacrifice. This dinner, this moment, felt like the culmination of every time they'd overlooked me, every time my boundaries were treated as suggestions. I'd started therapy a year ago, a quiet step toward untangling the guilt that came with wanting my own life. My therapist, Dr. Ellis, had introduced me to journaling, a practice I leaned into hard. In the car after dinner, parked outside my Capitol Hill apartment, I pulled out my notebook, the leather cover worn from months of late-night confessions. Why is my space always up for grabs? I wrote, the pen digging into the page. Am I invisible to them? Or do they just not care? The words poured out, raw and jagged, capturing the betrayal I couldn't voice at the table. My apartment wasn't just walls and windowsit, was the proof I'd built something for myself, something they couldn't claim. As I sat there, the Seattle skyline glittering beyond my windshield, I felt a shift. The familiar urge to please, to smooth things over, was still there, but it was drowned out by something new. Anger, yes, but also clarity. I wasn't the compliant daughter they expected. Not anymore. My home was mine, and I'd fight for it, even if it meant standing alone against the family I loved. The journal entry ended with a vow. This time, I choose me. That night, lying in bed with the hum of city traffic outside, I replayed the dinner in my mind. Mom's insistence, Dad's finality, Lily's smirk. They hadn't asked, hadn't even considered my feelings. But I wasn't powerless. I thought of my friend Sarah Nguyen, who'd seen me through college and countless family dramas. She'd know what to do. I thought of my lease, the legal protections I could lean on. And I thought of my apartment, its quiet strength, waiting for me to defend it. This dinner had changed everything. Not because of what they'd done, but because of what I'd decided. I wasn't just fighting for a spare room. I was fighting for my right to exist, to be seen, to matter. As I drifted to sleep, the weight of their expectations lifted, replaced by a fragile but growing resolve. Have you ever had a moment when your family assumed they could rewrite your life? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you've ever felt your boundaries were just suggestions, and let's navigate this journey together. The Seattle rain tapped softly against my apartment window, a steady rhythm that mirrored the thoughts swirling in my mind after that fateful family dinner. I, Emma Carter, sat cross-legged on my Capitol Hill living room floor, my journal open, its pages a canvas for the emotions I couldn't yet voice. The shock of my parents' announcement that my sister Lily would move into my hard-earned apartment had settled into something heavier, a familiar weight I'd carried for years. It wasn't just about the spare room they'd so casually claimed. It was about a lifetime of expectations, of being the middle child in the Carter family, forever caught in a dance where my steps were choreographed by others. As I traced the contours of my past, I began to see the patterns that had shaped me and the strength I'd need to break free. Growing up in our Queen Anne home, I was the invisible thread in the Carter family tapestry. My older sister, Lily, 33, was the star. Her abstract paintings hung like trophies in our living room, each one funded by Mom and Dad's unwavering support. Her artistic genius was celebrated with gallery openings in San Francisco, her failures cushioned by their credit cards a new car after a breakup. A month at their Denver cabin to find inspiration. Lily moved through life like a comet, bright and untouchable, her orbit always pulling the family's attention. My younger brother Noah, 25, was the cherished baby, his half-finished Venturesa podcast, a vegan food truck met with indulgent smiles and open wallets. He's finding himself, Mom would say, as if my own path had been a straight line I was simply expected to walk. And me? I was Emma, the middle child, the one who worked 3 jobs through college at the University of Denver to keep my scholarship. I'd spent countless nights at a Lodo coffee shop, steaming milk for late-night regulars, then tutoring classmates to cover rent. My used Toyota Corolla, bought with my own savings, was my pride. its engine humming reliably because I knew no one would replace it if it failed. Graduating summa cum laude was my triumph. A mountain climbed alone. Yet Mom and Dad's response was a curt, "That's nice," over dinner. As if my degree was a checkbox, not a milestone. My career as an environmental analyst in Seattle, my steady climb to stability, barely registered in their eyes. I was the dependable one. The one who didn't need fanfare, so they thought. This wasn't new. The Carter family had a way of assigning roles, and mine was to accommodate, to sacrifice, to keep the peace. When I was 17, Mom volunteered me to tutor my cousins every weekend for a summer, informing me only after she'd promised their parents. In college, Dad gave my off-campus apartment address to distant relatives for a family reunion, calling me hours before their arrival. "Family helps family," they'd say, a mantra that somehow never applied to Lily's art studio or Noah's latest whim. Each time I tried to protest, I was met with sighs, accusations of selfishness, reminders that I was the responsible one. The weight of those expectations pressed down, a slow suffocation I hadn't named until therapy. A year ago, I'd started seeing Dr. Ellis, a Seattle therapist who helped me untangle the guilt that came with wanting my own life. She introduced me to mindfulness, a practice I leaned into with morning yoga in my apartment, the sunrise over Capitol Hill grounding me as I stretched. "Your needs matter, Emma," she'd say, her words a lifeline I clung to. I'd also found solace in a community garden in Seattle's Fremont neighborhood where I volunteered on weekends. There, among raised beds of kale and sunflowers, I met people who saw Minot as the Carter family's fixer, but as Emma, with dreams and boundaries worth protecting. An elderly gardener, Miss Rosa, once told me, "Your home is your roots. Don't let anyone uproot you." Her words echoed now, a reminder of what was at stake. My apartment wasn't just a place. It was a testament to every choice I'd made to build a life on my terms. Its ivy-framed windows, the second-hand armchair where I read, the kitchen counter where I brewed coffee before dawn, they held the story of my resilience. I'd signed the lease 2 years ago, my hands trembling with pride, knowing this was mine, free from the family's pull. Yet here they were, claiming it as if it were theirs to give. Mom's bright smile at dinner, Dad's commanding tone, Lily's entitled nod they hadn't asked, hadn't considered my feelings. The betrayal cut deeper because it was so familiar. A wound reopened with every unasked favor, every dismissed achievement. As I wrote in my journal, the rain outside grew heavier, mirroring the storm inside me. "Why do they assume I'll say yes?" I scrawled. "Why is my life always the one they rearrange?" The questions spilled out, each one peeling back layers of resentment I'd buried under duty. I loved my family mom's warmth, Dad's rare laughs, even Lily's chaotic energy, and Noah's easy grin. But their love came with a cost, a silent demand that I bend, that I make room for their needs while mine were pushed aside. The dinner had crystallized it. My apartment, my sanctuary, was just another resource to them, like the guest room or Dad's old pickup truck. Sitting in the garden yesterday, I'd watched Miss Rosa tend her tomatoes, her hands steady despite her age. "You can love something and still set limits," she'd said, snipping a wilted leaf. Her wisdom lingered, a counterpoint to Mom's "family helps family" refrain. I thought of my yoga practice, the way each breath helped me find center. I wasn't powerless. Not anymore. Therapy had taught me to name my feelings, to see the patterns that kept me trapped. The community garden had shown me I wasn't alone, that others valued boundaries too. And my journal, its pages filled with truths I'd once been afraid to admit, was proof I could change. The weight of family expectations had shaped me, but it didn't have to define me. I closed my journal, the rain now a soft patter, and looked around my apartment. The exposed brick, the bookshelves, the quiet, they were mine, and I'd fight for them. I thought of my friend Sarah Nguyen, who'd seen me through Denver winters and family dramas. She'd know how to navigate this. I thought of my lease, the legal protections I could lean on, and I thought of myself, not as the accommodating middle child, but as Emma Carter, a woman with a voice, a home, a life worth defending. As I stood, stretching my arms like in my morning yoga, I felt a spark of something new resolve, yes, but also hope. The Carter family had cast me in a role I'd played too long, but I was ready to rewrite the script. Have you ever felt crushed by what your family expects of you? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you've ever wanted to break free from someone else's story. And let's find our own paths together. The Seattle skyline shimmered beyond my Capitol Hill apartment window, its lights a quiet promise against the dusk. I, Emma Carter, sat at my kitchen counter, my journal open, its pages a lifeline to the emotions churning inside me. The family dinner 2 nights ago where my parents, Margaret and Richard, announced that my sister Lily would move into my apartment that had left me reeling. Their casual assumption, Lily's entitled nod, the weight of years spent accommodating their expectations was too much. But tonight, something shifted. The anger that had simmered since that pot roast-laden table was no longer just pain. It was a spark, a flicker of resistance that lit a path I hadn't dared to walk before. As I gripped my pen, I realized this wasn't about a spare room. It was about claiming my right to exist, and I was ready to fight for it. The drive home from my parents' Queen Anne house had been a blur, the rain-slicked streets mirroring the storm in my chest. I'd parked outside my apartment, the engine off, and let the silence settle. My heart raced, my palms clammy against the steering wheel. They didn't even ask. I whispered to my reflection in the rearview mirror, the words sharp with betrayal. My apartment, my sanctuary, was the culmination of 5 years of sacrificial nights at a Denver coffee shop, tutoring sessions squeezed between classes, every penny saved while my friends partied in Miami. Its exposed brick walls, the second-hand armchair where I read, the morning light that painted my hardwood floors gold, they were proof I'd built a life on my terms. Yet Mom and Dad had treated it like community property, a resource to assign to Lily, their golden child, without a single question about my needs. I'd always been the middle child, the one who smoothed things over, who said yes when I wanted to scream no. Growing up, I'd watched Lily's art shows funded by our parents' credit cards, her breakups softened by their Denver cabin keys. Noah, the baby, drifted through life with their indulgence, his half-finished coding boot camps met with smiles. Me? I'd worked 3 jobs to graduate from the University of Denver, my summa cum laude degree earning a fleeting, "that's nice" at dinner. My reliable Toyota Corolla, my steady career as an environmental analyst none of it seemed to matter. I was Emma, the dependable one, expected to bend, to make room, to keep the family harmony intact. But this time, their expectation that I'd let Lily invade my home was a bridge too far. Therapy had been my quiet rebellion over the past year. Dr. Ellis, my Seattle therapist, had taught me to name my feelings, to see the patterns that kept me trapped. "You're allowed to say no, Emma," she'd said, her voice steady. "It's not selfish. It's survival." Her words echoed as I sat in my car, the memory of Lily's smirk at dinner fueling my resolve. I'd started journaling at Dr. Ellis's suggestion, a practice that turned my tangled thoughts into clarity. "This isn't just about a room," I wrote that night, my pen digging into the page. "It's about my right to exist, to have something that's mine. They can't take that from me." The act of writing felt like defiance, each word a brick in the wall I was building around my autonomy. I needed perspective, someone who saw me beyond the Carter family script. Sarah Wynn, my best friend since our Denver college days, was that person. I called her from my living room, the city's hum a soft backdrop. "They did what?" Sarah's voice crackled with indignation. "Emma, they can't just claim your apartment like it's their guest house. Lily's 33, she can figure it out." Her outrage was a balm, validating the anger I'd been taught to suppress. We talked for an hour, Sarah's fierce loyalty cutting through my guilt. "You've spent your life making space for them," she said. "This time, make space for you." Her words landed like a match, igniting the spark of resistance into a flame. I wasn't alone, and I wasn't wrong to want control over my own life. Clarity came with action. I opened my laptop and pulled up my lease agreement, scanning the fine print. The terms were clear. No long-term guests without management approval. No subletting without written consent. This wasn't just a moral stand, it was a legal one. I jotted notes in my journal, outlining my rights as a tenant in Seattle. The research grounded me, turning my emotions into a plan. I thought of my community garden in Fremont, where I volunteered, where Miss Rosa had told me, "Your home is your roots, protect it." Her wisdom, rooted in decades of tending both plants and boundaries, gave me courage. I wasn't just fighting for myself, I was honoring the life I'd built, the roots I'd planted in this city. Yesterday, I'd attended a mindfulness workshop in Seattle's Fremont neighborhood, a new step in my journey to stay centered. The facilitator, a calm woman named Lena, led us through a breathing exercise. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 8. Let go of what doesn't serve you, she said, her voice like a gentle tide. I'd closed my eyes, picturing my parents' dinner table, Lily's smirk, the weight of their expectations. With each exhale, I released a piece of the guilt I'd carried for wanting my own space. The workshop gave me a tool breath as anchor and a reminder. I could face this with clarity, not chaos. As I sat at my counter now, I practiced that breath, feeling my resolve solidify. The spark of resistance wasn't just anger, it was self-worth, a recognition that I deserved better. I thought of my apartment, its quiet strength, the way it held my dreams. I thought of my career, the respect I'd earned at work, the recognition that never came from home. And I thought of my journal, its pages a testament to my growth. I choose me, I wrote, the words bold and unapologetic. This wasn't about rejecting my family. I loved them, flaws and all. It was about rejecting the role they'd cast me in, the one that demanded I erase myself to keep their world spinning. As I closed my journal, the Seattle skyline glowed brighter, a beacon of possibility. I wasn't the compliant daughter they expected, not anymore. I had Sarah's support, my Lisa's protections, and a growing sense of my own power. The path ahead would be hard, standing up to Mom, Dad, and Lily, meant risking their disapproval, maybe even their anger. But for the first time, I felt ready. My apartment wasn't just a place, it was a promise I'd made to myself, and I wouldn't let it go. Have you ever felt a spark of defiance when someone tried to rewrite your life? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you've ever wanted to stand up for your own space, and let's keep this journey going together. The Seattle dawn painted my Capitol Hill apartment in soft gold, the light slipping through ivy-framed windows to rest on my journal, open on the kitchen counter. I, Emma Carter, stood at a crossroads, the sting of my parents' dinner announcement that my sister Lily would move into my home still raw. But the spark of resistance I'd felt last night had grown into a steady flame, fueled by a truth I could no longer ignore. My apartment, my sanctuary, was mine to defend. As I sipped my coffee, its warmth grounding me, I began to craft a plan just to protect my space, but to reclaim my voice in a family that had long overlooked it. This wasn't about defiance for defiance's sake. It was about building a life where I mattered, and I was ready to take the first deliberate steps. The weight of that dinner in my parents' Queen Anne home lingered like a bruise. Mom, Margaret, with her bright smile and unyielding gaze. Dad, Richard, with his commanding tone. Lily, with her entitled smirk. They hadn't asked, hadn't considered my feelings. My apartment, earned through 5 years of late shifts at a Denver coffee shop and tutoring sessions that left me exhausted, was more than walls and floors. Its exposed brick, the secondhand bookshelves I'd sanded myself, the morning light that felt like a promise, they were the physical proof of my independence, a life carved out despite the Carter family's expectations. I was the middle child, the one who graduated summa cum laude from the University of Denver while working 3 jobs, whose reliable Toyota Corolla hummed because I maintained it with care. Yet my achievements were met with a nod, a "that's nice," while Lily's art shows and Noah's whims were celebrated. Therapy with Dr. Ellis had taught me to see these patterns, to name the guilt that came with wanting my own space. "You're allowed to protect what's yours," she'd said, her words a beacon. My journal, a habit born from her guidance, was now a map of my resolve. "This is my line in the sand," I wrote, the pen steady. "My home is my heart, and I won't let them claim it." But resolve alone wasn't enough. I needed a strategy, one that honored my boundaries without sparking a family war I wasn't ready to fight. I thought of Sarah Nguyen, my best friend since our Denver college days, whose fierce support had lit the path forward. And I thought of my community garden in Fremont, where Miss Rosa's wisdom, "Your home is your roots," echoed in my mind. First, I needed to understand my rights. I opened my laptop and pulled up my lease agreement, the document I'd signed 2 years ago with trembling pride. The terms were clear: no long-term guests without management approval, no subletting without written consent. A wave of relief washed over Memphis. wasn't just a personal stand. It was a legal one. I drove to my building's management office in Capitol Hill, the spring air crisp with possibility. Tanya, the property manager who'd approved my lease, greeted me warmly. "I'm considering a friend staying while I'm away for work," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Can you clarify the guest policies?" Tanya handed me a packet, explaining that stays over 14 days required a background check and approval. "And if someone tried to move in without this?" I asked, my heart quickening. "Not allowed," she said firmly. "Security would stop them. It's about safety and compliance." I left her office with a plan taking shape. My journal soon filled with notes on tenant rights in Seattle. Next, I needed an ally in my apartment. James Patel, a colleague whose San Francisco condo was under renovation, came to mind. We'd bonded over late-night project deadlines, his dry humor a counterpoint to my quiet focus. I texted him during lunch, explaining my situation in professional terms. "I need someone responsible to stay in my apartment for 2 weeks while I'm away. There'd be a formal sublease to protect us both. Interested?" His reply came quickly. "Perfect timing, Emma. I'm mine." That evening, we met at a Capitol Hill cafe, drafting a sublease agreement over lattes. James's calm assurance, "I'll keep your place safe," felt like a lifeline. I showed him my apartment, its cozy corners and personal touches, and gave him clear instructions. If my family showed up, he was the legal occupant. No explanations owed. To ensure I'd be unavailable, I scheduled a work trip to San Francisco, aligning with the Saturday my family planned to move Lily in. My environmental firm had a conference I could attend early, and I booked a hotel in Sausalito, where the ocean's rhythm might soothe the storm I anticipated. Back home, I took practical steps. I rented a small storage unit for my valuables family photos. My grandmother's quiltin documented my apartment's condition with photos. I installed a discreet security camera in my living room, its lens trained on the entryway, a precaution I never imagined needing against my own family. Each action felt like a brick in a fortress, not of isolation, but of self-respect. A new ritual anchored my resolve. A vision board inspired by a mindfulness workshop in Fremont. On a corkboard in my office, I pinned Imagessa Paris Café, a corner office, my apartment's glowing window symbols of the life I was fighting for. "This is why," I whispered, tracing a photo of Puget Sound. The board wasn't just decoration. It was a promise to myself, a reminder that my dreams deserved space. I'd learned a breathing technique at the workshop: inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 8. I used it now, each breath steadying my nerves. "Let go of what doesn't serve you," the facilitator had said. I was letting go of the guilt, the need to please, the role of the accommodating daughter. Sarah's voice echoed in my mind, her words from our call last night a rallying cry. "You're not betraying them, Emma. You're honoring yourself." We'd brainstormed over wine, her indignation fueling my courage. "What if you're just not there?" she'd suggested. Let them face a locked door and a stranger's face. The idea had taken root, blossoming into this plan. I texted my family vague replies to their messages: Mom's questions about parking, Lily's assumptions about furniture keeping them at bay without revealing my intentions. Swamped with work, I wrote, letting them mistake my silence for compliance. As I packed for San Francisco, my apartment felt alive, its walls holding my determination. The bookshelves, the armchair, the kitchen counter where I'd journaled my truth, they were witnesses to my transformation. I wasn't just protecting a space. I was protecting the woman I'd become, the one who'd survived Denver winters and family oversights, who'd built a career and a home. The plan was set. James in my apartment, me in San Francisco, my family facing a reality they couldn't override. It was strategic, not spiteful. A way to assert my boundaries without the confrontation I'd always feared. Standing in my living room, the Seattle skyline, a canvas of possibility, I felt a quiet power. The road ahead would be rocky Mom's guilt trips, Dad's commands, Lily's entitlement. But I was ready. My vision board glowed with hope, my journal with resolve. This was my space, my life, and I'd defend it with every tool I had. Have you ever crafted a plan to protect what's yours? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you've ever taken a stand for your own dreams, and let's keep building our strength together. The San Francisco sunrise spilled golden light across my Sausalito hotel room, the bay's gentle waves a stark contrast to the storm I knew was brewing 30 miles north in Seattle. I, Emma Carter, sat on the edge of my bed, my phone in hand, the security app open to a live feed from my Capitol Hill apartment. Today was the day my family, Mom, Margaret, Dad, Richard, and my sister, Lily, would arrive, expecting to move Lily into my home, my sanctuary, without my consent. My plan, meticulously crafted over days, was in motion. James Patel, my colleague, was in my apartment, armed with a legal sublease. I was here, far from their reach, watching from a distance. This was no longer about a spare room. It was about my right to stand firm. And as the clock ticked toward 11, I felt a mix of nerves and resolve, a quiet certainty that I was rewriting my story. The past week had been a whirlwind of preparation, born from the shock of that family dinner in Queen Anne, where my parents had casually claimed my apartment for Lily. I'd spent years as the middle child, the one who smoothed over conflicts, who said yes to keep the peace. My summa cum laude degree from the University of Denver, earned through late nights at a Lodo coffee shop and tutoring gigs, had barely registered with them. Lily, the golden child, floated through life with parent-funded art shows in San Francisco, her breakups softened by their generosity. Noah, the baby, was indulged through every half-finished venture. But me? My reliable Toyota Corolla, my career as an environmental analyst, my Capitol Hill apartment, they were mine. Hard-won, yet treated as family property. Therapy with Dr. Ellis, my journal, my Fremont community garden, and Sarah Nguyen's fierce support had shown me I could break free. Today was the test. I'd aligned my San Francisco work trip with their planned move-in, ensuring I'd be absent. James, whose condo was under renovation, was my ally, his sublease a legal shield. I'd installed a security camera, moved valuables to a storage unit, and pinned a vision board in my office images of Paris, Puget Sound, my glowing apartment reminding me why I was fighting. My mindfulness practice, honed at a Fremont workshop, kept me grounded. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 8. Let go of what doesn't serve you, the facilitator had said. I was letting go of the guilt, the need to please, the role I'd played too long. At 10:45 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Lily. Almost there. Dad's got Uncle Mike's truck for my dresser. So excited. The cheerfulness stung. Her assumption that I'd comply a reminder of years of being overlooked. I didn't respond. My silence a deliberate choice. Sarah's words echoed. Let them face a locked door and a stranger's face. I sent a quick text to James. They're on their way. You've got this. His reply was calm. All set, Emma. Your place is secure. I ordered room service a coffee, a croissant, trying to anchor myself in the moment. But my eyes stayed glued to the security app. At 11:03, the camera pinged. My family stood in the hallway outside my apartment, their confidence palpable even through the grainy feed. Dad pounded on the door, his broad shoulders tense, his knocks authoritative. Mom rang the doorbell repeatedly, her purse clutched like a shield. Lily paced, phone in hand, gesturing animatedly, likely trying to call me. My heart thudded. A mix of fear and exhilaration. They'd expected me to open the door, to nod and step aside as always. But I wasn't there. And this wasn't their stage anymore. Minutes passed, their frustration growing. Dad pulled out his phone, probably calling building management, his jaw tight. Mom's hands fluttered, her distress a familiar performance. Lily's pacing quickened, her expression shifting from annoyance to disbelief. Then, the door opened, and James stepped out, coffee mug in hand, his posture calm but firm. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw the shock ripple through them. Dad's recoil, Mom's hand to her chest, Lily's frozen stare. James held up a document. Likely the sublease, his demeanor unshakable. A security officer appeared, summoned by Dad's call, and I imagined the conversation. No, they couldn't enter. No, family ties didn't override a legal agreement. The officer's presence was my plan's final piece, a neutral force upholding the boundaries I'd set. The confrontation lasted 6 minutes. Dad leaned forward, his voice probably rising, but the security officer stepped between them, a quiet authority. Mom's gestures grew frantic, Lily's outrage clear in her clenched fists. James remained steady, a stranger in my home who'd become my unexpected champion. Finally, the officer escorted them toward the elevator, Dad's rigid back and Mom's animated hands betraying their defeat. As they vanished from the camera's view, I exhaled, my breath shaky. I'd done it. My apartment, my sanctuary, was safe not because I'd fought, but because I'd planned, because I'd chosen myself. The victory was bittersweet. I loved my family Mom's warmth, Dad's rare smiles, even Lily's chaotic energy. Watching them leave, their plans unraveling, stirred a pang of sadness. Had I pushed them too far? Would they ever understand? I texted Sarah, my fingers trembling. It worked. They're gone. Her reply was instant. You did it, Em. You're free. Her words were a lifeline, pulling me back from doubt. I thought of my vision board, its images of freedom and peace, and felt a surge of pride. This wasn't about hurting Thamit, it was about honoring me. Last night, I joined a virtual support group for boundary setting, a new step in my journey. Logging in from my hotel, I'd shared my story anonymously, my voice steady as I described the dinner, my plan, this moment. Strangers from Chicago, Austin, Miami responded with encouragement. You're so strong. I wish I'd done that with my family. Their words, from across the U.S., reminded me I wasn't alone. One woman, a teacher from Atlanta, said, Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors you choose to open. Her metaphor stayed with me, a reminder that I could love my family and still protect my space. As I sipped my coffee, the bay sparkling outside, I felt transformed. The girl who'd nodded through years of family demands was gone. In her place was Emma Carter, a woman who'd built a life through Denver winters, Seattle dawns, and countless small victories and who'd defend it. The camera feed was still, my apartment quiet, but it hummed with my resolve. My family would fight back. I knew Mom's guilt trips, Dad's commands, Lily's anger, but I was ready. I'd faced the day of reckoning and emerged not just intact, but stronger. Have you ever stood your ground and felt both proud and torn? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you've ever fought for your own space. And let's keep this journey of courage going together. The Sausalito morning was crisp, the San Francisco Bay glinting under a pale sky, but my hotel room felt like a bunker as my phone buzzed relentlessly. I, Emma Carter, sat on the balcony, my coffee cooling, my heart heavy with the aftershocks of yesterday's confrontation at my Capitol Hill apartment. My family Mom, Margaret, Dad, Richard, and my sister, Lily, had arrived in Seattle, expecting to move Lily into my home, only to be stopped by James Patel, my colleague, and a security officer upholding my sublease. The plan I'd crafted to protect my sanctuary had worked, but the fallout was fierce, a tidal wave of anger, guilt, and pressure crashing over me. Yet, amidst the storm, I felt a quiet strength, a resilience I hadn't known I possessed, anchoring me to the boundaries I'd fought to set. The day of reckoning had unfolded exactly as I'd planned, but its emotional cost was steeper than I'd anticipated. My apartment, earned through 5 years of late shifts at a Denver coffee shop and tutoring gigs to keep my University of Denver scholarship, was more than a home. Its exposed brick walls, secondhand bookshelves, and morning light were my proof of independence, a life built despite the Carter family's expectations. As the middle child, I'd been the fixer. My summa cum laude degree and environmental analyst career met with a nod while Lily's art shows and Noah's whims were celebrated. Therapy with Dr. Ellis, my Fremont community garden, Sarah and Wynn's support, and my journal had shown me I could break free. I'd aligned a San Francisco work trip with their move-in, placed James in my apartment, and installed a security camera, my vision board reminding me why I fought. But now, the family I loved was fighting back, and I had to hold my ground. My phone lit up with notifications, each one a jab at my resolve. Dad's voicemails were sharp, his voice tight with authority. Emma, this is unacceptable. Call us now, or I'm contacting the police about this unauthorized occupant. Mom's text dripped with guilt. How could you do this to Lily? She's heartbroken, and we raised you better. Lily's messages were a barrage of rage. You're so selfish. I have nowhere to go, and you're hiding like a coward. The words stung, echoing years of being called ungrateful when I dared to protest. Extended family joined the fray. An aunt in Chicago left a voicemail. Her tone soft but pointed. Emma, family helps family. Why are you shutting out your sister? Even my cousin in Portland emailed, urging me to think about Lily's feelings. The pressure was a chorus, each voice pulling at the threads of my guilt, threatening to unravel my certainty. I forwarded the most aggressive messages to Sarah, my Denver college friend whose fierce loyalty had guided me through this plan. They're losing it, she texted back. But you're in the right. Stay strong, Em. Her words were a lifeline, reminding me I wasn't the villain they painted. I practiced the breathing technique from my Fremont Mindfulness Workshop. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 8, letting the rhythm steady my pulse. Let go of what doesn't serve you, the facilitator had said. I was letting go of the need to please, the role of the compliant daughter, but the guilt lingered, a shadow I couldn't fully shake. I loved my family mom's warmth, Dad's rare laughs, Lily's chaotic energy, but their love came with strings, and I was cutting them one by one. James called around noon, his voice calm despite the chaos he'd faced. Your dad tried to argue the sublease was fake, he said, chuckling. The security guy shut it down, said unauthorized entry could mean police. They left after your mom started crying in the hallway. He paused, then added, Your place is safe, Emma. I've got this. His assurance was a gift, a stranger, turnedly protecting the home I'd built. Neighbors in my building, aware of the commotion, slipped notes under my door. James sent me photos of them. Proud of you for standing up, one read, signed by the couple next door. Their support, small but real, bolstered me. A reminder that community wasn't just family, it was the people who saw my worth. The pressure didn't stop. By evening, Mom sent a photo of Lily, surrounded by boxes in their Queen Anne living room, her face a mask of distress. This is what you've caused, the caption read. The image hit like a punch, stirring memories of childhood, when I'd comfort Lily after her dramas, always the big sister despite being younger. I wanted to call, to explain, but I knew they'd twist my words. Instead, I turned to a new outlet, a blog I'd started under a pseudonym, Rooted in Me. My first post, Why My Apartment Isn't a Family Free for All, poured out my story, the dinner, the plan, the fallout. I wrote of my apartment's significance, my years of sacrifice, the boundaries I was learning to set. Comments flooded in from strangers across the U.S. I've been there, wrote a woman from Austin. You're inspiring me to say no. The blog became a mirror, reflecting my strength back to me, connecting me to others who understood. My journal, too, was a refuge. They're trying to break me, I wrote, but I'm not breaking. My home is mine, and so is my voice. The act of writing clarified my emotions, turning pain into purpose. I thought of my vision board, pinned with images of Paris and Puget Sound, a reminder of the life I was protecting. I thought of Miss Rosa at the community garden, her words, Your home is your roots, a mantra I clung to. The fallout was brutal, but it was also revealing. My family's reaction showed how deeply they'd relied on my compliance, how unfamiliar they were with my refusal. It hurt, but it also validated my stand. If saying no caused this much chaos, maybe my yes had been taken for granted too long. As night fell over Sausalito, the bay's lights twinkling, I felt a shift. The guilt was still there, a quiet ache, but it was overshadowed by pride. I'd faced their pressure and held firm, not with anger, but with strategy and self-respect. I wasn't alone. Sarah, James, my neighbors, even strangers online were with me. The virtual support group I joined last night had taught me boundaries were doors, not walls, and I was learning to open them on my terms. My family would push harder. I knew more calls, more guilt, maybe even ultimatums, but I was ready. My apartment, my life, my heart, they were mine, and I'd defend them with every breath. Have you ever faced a wave of family pressure and found strength to stand firm? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you've ever pushed back against expectations, and let's keep building our resilience together. The Sausalito evening wrapped the bay in a soft glow, the lights of San Francisco twinkling like stars across the water. I, Emma Carter, sat in my hotel room, my journal open on the desk, its pages capturing the quiet after the storm. The confrontation at my Capitol Hill apartment where my family, expecting to move my sister Lily into my home, was turned away by James Patel, and a security officer had shaken us all. The fallout, a barrage of angry voicemails and guilt-laden texts, had tested my resolve. But now, as I traced the events of the past few days, I sensed a change, a subtle shift in the tide of my family's dynamics. Their messages, once sharp with demands, were softening, hinting at recognition, however reluctant, of the boundaries I'd set. As I prepared for the dialogue ahead, I felt a cautious hope, a belief that this painful stand might lead to something new not just for me, but for all of us. The journey to this moment had been long. My apartment, with its exposed brick and ivy-framed windows, was more than a home. It was the culmination of 5 years of sacrifice-lit nights at a Denver coffee shop, tutoring to keep my University of Denver scholarship, every penny saved while my friends partied in Miami. As the middle child, I'd been the Carter family's fixer. My summa cum laude degree and environmental analyst career met with a nod, while Lily's San Francisco art shows and Noah's whims were celebrated. Therapy with Dr. Ellis, my Fremont community garden, Sarah Nguyen's fierce support, and my journal had shown me I could break free. I'd crafted a Plan James's sublease, a San Francisco work trip, a security camerado protect my space, my vision board of Paris and Puget Sound reminding me why. The plan had worked, but the family's reaction, Dad's threats, Mom's guilt trips, Lily's rajhad left me raw, even as I stood firm. Now, the tide was turning. Lily's latest text, received this morning, was different. "I'm sorry, Em. I didn't know Mom and Dad hadn't asked you. I thought you were okay with it." Her words, tentative but sincere, cracked the armor of my anger. I reread them, my coffee cooling, and felt a pang of empathy. Lily, the golden child, had her own burdens, her life shaped by our parents' indulgence as much as mine was by their oversight. Mom's voicemail followed, her tone less accusatory. "Maybe Lily could stay just a couple of weeks while we sort this out. We could help with rent." The offer, though still presumptuous, was a concession, a sign they were grappling with my refusal. Dad's message was pragmatic. "We're looking at apartments for Lily. Let us know when you're back." No apology, but a pivot, a step toward respecting my space. Even Noah, usually silent in family conflicts, chimed in, "Mom and Dad are freaking out, and Lily's whining nonstop. Whatever you did, respect, sis." His words, brief but genuine, were a surprise, a reminder that he too saw the family's patterns. These shifts, small but significant, stirred a mix of emotion hope that we could find a new way forward. Fear that old habits would resurface, pride that my stand had forced them to pause. I practiced my mindfulness breathing. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 8, letting the rhythm anchor me. "Let go of what doesn't serve you," my Fremont workshop facilitator had said. I was letting go of the need to control their reactions, trusting that my boundaries were enough. Preparation for dialogue was my next step. I'd return to Seattle tomorrow, and I wanted a face-to-face meeting, not on their turf in Queen Anne, but in neutral territory, a Pike Place Market coffee shop. Its bustle a buffer against emotional overload. I opened my journal, listing key points. Why their assumption hurt. The importance of my apartment. My need for direct communication. Writing clarified my thoughts, turning raw feelings into a plan. I thought of Sarah, who'd texted, "They're starting to get it, Em. You've got this." Her faith in me was a beacon, guiding me toward a conversation that could redefine our family. A new ritual gave me strength. A community mural project in Seattle's Fremont neighborhood, where I'd volunteered yesterday. The mural, a vibrant tapestry of local stories, was a collaboration with artists and neighbors. As I painted a wave symbolizing resilience, a young artist named Clara said, "Art's like life, you choose what stays on the canvas." Her words resonated, echoing my fight to choose what defined my life. The mural, like my vision board, was a reminder that I could create something beautiful, even amidst conflict. I'd pinned images of Paris and Puget Sound to that board, symbols of freedom, and now I added a photo of the mural, a testament to community and courage. My anonymous blog, Rooted in Me, was another anchor. My latest post, "The Day I Said No," had struck a chord, with comments from readers in Chicago, Austin, and beyond. Your story gave me courage to set boundaries with my parents. One wrote. The blog connected me to a wider world, affirming that my struggle was universal. A virtual support group I'd joined had taught me boundaries were doors, not walls, and I was learning to open them thoughtfully. I thought of Miss Rosa at the community garden. Her words, "Your home is your roots," a mantra I carried. These Connections blog readers, support group, mural artists, garden volunteers were my chosen community, supporting me as I navigated this shift. The family's recalibration wasn't perfect. Mom's offer to pay rent still assumed I'd bend. Dad's apartment search didn't acknowledge his overstep. Lily's apology didn't erase her entitlement. But these were cracks in the old patterns, spaces where change could grow. I felt a cautious optimism, tempered by realism. My journal entry tonight read, "They're moving, slowly, because I stood still. My home, my heart, my voice, they're mine. And they're listening." The act of writing was a prayer, a hope that dialogue could heal what confrontation had exposed. As I closed my journal, the bay's lights glowed brighter, a mirror to my growing hope. I wasn't the compliant daughter anymore, nor was I an adversary. I was Emma Carter, a woman who'd built a life through Denver winters and Seattle dawns, who loved her family, but loved herself too. The Pike Place meeting would be hard mom's emotions, dad's defensiveness, Lily's unpredictability, but I was ready. My vision board, my blog, my mural, my breath, they were tools of resilience, proof I could shape my story. The tide was shifting, not just for me, but for all of us, toward a family where boundaries were respected, where voices were heard. Have you ever seen a tough relationship start to change? Even just a little? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you've ever hoped for a new beginning, and let's keep this journey of growth going together. The Pike Place Market coffee shop buzzed with the hum of Seattle morning life, the aroma of roasted beans mingling with the salty tang of Puget Sound air. I, Emma Carter, arrived 15 minutes early, my journal tucked under my arm, my heart a steady drumbeat of anticipation. Today, I'd face my family mom, Margaret, dad, Richard, and my sister, Lily for the first time since they'd tried to move Lily into my Capitol Hill apartment, only to be stopped by my colleague James Patel and a security officer. The fallout had been fierce, but their recent messages hinted at a shift, a reluctant recognition of my boundaries. This meeting wasn't about winning or losing. It was about rewriting our family's story. And as I claimed a corner table, I felt a quiet strength, a hope that honest words could build something new. The journey to this moment had been a crucible. My apartment, with its exposed brick and ivy-framed windows, was my sanctuary, earned through 5 years of late shifts at a Denver coffee shop and tutoring to keep my University of Denver scholarship. As the middle child, I'd been the Carter family's fixer. My summa cum laude degree and environmental analyst career met with a nod while Lily's San Francisco art shows and Noah's whims were celebrated. Therapy with Dr. Ellis, my Fremont community garden, Sarah Nguyen's fierce support, and my journal had shown me I could break free. I'd crafted a plan James's sublease, a San Francisco work trip, a security camerado protect my space, my vision board of Paris and Puget Sound, fueling my resolve. The confrontation had worked, but the family's anger, dad's threats, mom's guilt trips, Lily's rage had tested me. Their softening, Lily's apology, mom's compromise, dad's apartment search had led us here, to this neutral ground. I sipped my cappuccino, its warmth grounding me, and reviewed my journal notes. Why their assumption hurt. The sanctity of my home. My need for respect. I'd practiced my mindfulness breathing. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 8 learned at a Fremont workshop, letting it steady my nerves. Sarah had texted, "You've got this, Em. Speak your truth." Her faith, like the Fremont mural I'd painted, a wave of resilience bolstered me. My anonymous blog, Rooted in Me, had connected me to strangers who cheered my stand, their comments a reminder that boundaries were universal. I wasn't just fighting for myself, I was fighting for a family where every voice mattered. Mom arrived first, 5 minutes early, her eyes flickering with nervous energy. She moved to hug me, hesitating when I offered a handshake. A small gesture setting the tone. Dad and Lily followed. Dad's face stern, Lily's eyes red-rimmed, her usual confidence dimmed. We settled into silence. The shop's chatter a buffer against the tension. Dad cleared his throat, his voice clipped. Emma, you owe us an explanation for last weekend's stunt. The framing was predictable, casting me as the transgressor, but I'd anticipated it. I took a breath, my words measured. Actually, I think we need to talk about why you plan to move Lily into my apartment without asking me. The directness caught them off guard. Mom's eyebrows rose, Dad's mouth tightened, and Lily stirred her coffee, avoiding my gaze. We were helping your sister, Mom began, her tone soft but insistent. You have that extra room and Lily needed a place. Family helps family. The familiar mantra hung heavy, a refrain that had silenced me for years. I leaned forward, my voice steady. I understand Lily needed help, but deciding she'd live in my home without my consent wasn't help. It was an invasion of my space, a disregard for my life. Dad's eyes narrowed. Invasion? That's dramatic, Emma. This is about your sister, not some philosophical debate. His dismissal stung, but I was ready. It's about boundaries, Dad. Would you have done this to Noah's place without asking? The question landed. Dad pausing, Mom shifting uncomfortably. Lily spoke, her voice small. I didn't know they hadn't talked to you. They said you were fine with it. Her admission shifted the air, revealing a fracture in their united front. Mom flushed, her gaze dropping. We meant to discuss it, but we knew you'd agree once you saw Lily's situation. The presumption was stark, a mirror to years of unasked favors. That's the problem, I said quietly. You assumed I'd say yes, as if my needs don't matter. My apartment isn't yours to assign. The silence stretched, heavy with truth. Dad exhaled, his tone softening. Perhaps we overstepped. Your space is your own, and we didn't handle this well. The concession, however grudging, was a crack in the old dynamic. Mom reached toward me, stopping short. We love you, Emma. We just want what's best for both our girls. Sometimes we forget you're an adult with your own life. Her words, though qualified, held a sincerity I hadn't expected. Lily looked at me, her eyes genuine. I'm sorry, Em. I should have called you myself. That was thoughtless. Her apology, unprompted, hit deeper than I'd imagined. The conversation turned, not to victory, but to possibility. Dad mentioned apartments they'd found for Lily, more affordable than her usual taste. A practical step forward. Mom suggested a family day to help Lily move, adding, if everyone's available, her glance at me a small acknowledgement. I seized the moment, my voice firm but kind. Going forward, I need direct communication, not assumptions. I need you to ask me, to respect my right to say no without feeling selfish. Dad nodded, the businessman in him recognizing fair terms. We'll try, Emma. That's reasonable. Mom's hand rested near mine, a gesture of connection, not control. We're learning, she said, a faint smile breaking through. I proposed a new idea. A family reconciliation workshop in Seattle. A structured space to rebuild our dynamic. Mom's eyes lit up. Dad nodded thoughtfully, and Lily murmured, that could help. It was a seed, a chance for lasting change. As we spoke, I felt the weight of years of being the compliant daughter. The overlooked achiever lift slightly. My blog reader's words echoed. Boundaries are doors you choose to open. I was opening a door, not to conflict, but to a family where respect could grow. We parted with tentative plans: Lily's apartment viewings, the workshop, a promise to talk again. The coffee shop's bustle faded as I stepped into the Seattle morning, Pike Place alive with vendors and hope. I wasn't naive. Decades of patterns wouldn't vanish in one meeting, but we'd laid a foundation. My journal entry later read, today I spoke, and they listened. My home, my voice, my heart, they're mine, and they're starting to see. The Fremont mural, Miss. Rosa's garden wisdom, Sarah's faith they'd carried me here, to a showdown that wasn't a fight, but a beginning. Have you ever had a tough talk that changed a relationship? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you believe in new beginnings, and let's keep this journey of healing going together. The Seattle autumn light filtered through my Capitol Hill apartment's ivy-framed windows, casting a warm glow across the hardwood floors I'd fought to keep mine. I, Emma Carter, stood in my living room, my journal resting on the secondhand bookshelf, its pages a chronicle of a journey that had reshaped my family and myself. The coffee shop meeting at Pike Place Market, where I'd faced Mom, Margaret, Dad, Richard, and my sister, Lily, had been a turning point. Their decision to move Lily into my apartment without asking had sparked a confrontation, a plan to protect my space with James Patel's sublease, and a reckoning that forced us to see each other anew. Now, weeks later, our family was changing. Not perfectly, but profoundly, and I was discovering a strength that went beyond Boundarisa's strength to rebuild on terms that honored us all. This journey had been forged in sacrifice. My apartment, my sanctuary, was the fruit of 5 years of late nights at a Denver coffee shop, tutoring to maintain my University of Denver scholarship, and every penny saved while friends jetted to Miami. As the middle child, I'd been the Carter family's fixer. My summa cum laude degree and environmental analyst career barely acknowledged while Lily's San Francisco art shows and Noah's whims were celebrated. Therapy with Dr. Ellis, my Fremont community garden, Sarah Wynn's fierce support, and my journal had taught me to break free. I'd protected my home with a San Francisco work trip, a security camera, and a vision board of Paris and Puget Sound. The Pike Place showdown had yielded apologies, a commitment to find Lily an apartment, and my proposal for a family reconciliation workshop. Now, we were navigating a new normal, fragile but full of possibility. The changes were subtle but real. Mom called instead of texting about family plans, her voice tentative, her questions framed as requests. Would you like to join us for Lily's apartment hunt this weekend? The shift, from assumption to invitation, felt like a small miracle. Dad's updates were brief, less commanding, sharing details about Lily's potential rentals without expecting my involvement. His distance hinted at discomfort with the new dynamic, but his respect was evident, a quiet acknowledgement of my stand. Lily surprised me most. She texted to suggest lunch, just us, at a Fremont cafe, her message lacking the entitlement I'd grown used to. "I want to talk, Em," she wrote. "Really talk." Her openness, a faint echo of our childhood closeness, stirred a hope I hadn't felt in years. Our lunch was a revelation. Over salads and iced tea, Lily shared her struggles, her voice raw. "Mom and Dad always made it sound like you were happy to help," she said, picking at her plate. "I never questioned it because you were the strong one, the one who had it together." Her words illuminated how our parents' narrative as the dependable fixer, her as the fragile artist had shaped us both, keeping us apart. "Seeing you stand up to them made me realize I've let them run my life," she admitted. "I'm starting therapy, Em. I want to be someone who doesn't need rescuing." Her vulnerability was a bridge, one we hadn't crossed since we were kids. And I felt a surge of pride for her. For us. Lily's therapy, inspired by my example, was a ripple of change I hadn't expected. She moved into a modest one-bedroom near her workplace in early December, a practical choice that marked her shift toward independence. I helped her unpack, our laughter filling the small space as we arranged her bookshelves. "I'm figuring out who I am," she said, her eyes bright. Not the artsy daughter, just Lily. Our collaboration, free of old tensions, felt like a new beginning, rooted in mutual respect. I thought of my Fremont mural project, where I'd painted a wave of resilience, and saw parallels in our rebuilding a canvas we were shaping together. Mom slipped into old habits at times, her comments about my new attitude making family planning complicated. Dad's cool distance lingered, his unease with my assertiveness clear. A family dinner in Queen Anne was tense, old roles Lily's drama, Noah's charm. My compliancer surfacing before we consciously redirected. But I was changing too. When Mom asked me to host Christmas, I declined firmly. "That doesn't work for me, but I'll bring dishes to whoever hosts." The silence before her acceptance was a victory, small but profound. Each time I held a boundary, the guilt I'd once carried faded, replaced by confidence in my right to choose. My anonymous blog, Rooted in Me, grew, its readers sharing their own boundary stories from Chicago, Austin, and beyond. "Your courage inspired me to say no to my in-laws," one wrote, their words a mirror to my growth. The virtual support group I joined taught me boundaries were doors, and my blog was mine, opening to a community that understood. I'd also started a book club in my apartment, inviting neighbors and James, whose sublease had ended but whose friendship endured. We read novels about family and resilience. Our discussions in my living room, once threatened, now sacred, building a chosen family that respected my space. "This place feels like you," James said, sipping wine. "It's strong." His words echoed Miss Rosa's from the community garden. "Your home is your roots." My vision board, pinned with images of Paris and Puget Sound, now included a photo of Lily's new apartment, a symbol of our evolving bond. My journal captured it all. We're rebuilding, not as we were, but as we could be. My voice matters, and they're starting to hear it. Writing was my anchor, turning hope into reality. The family reconciliation workshop loomed, a commitment we'd all made, and I felt ready not to fix, but to connect, to build on terms that honored us all. I thought of my mindfulness breathing: inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 8, learned in Fremont, and used it to stay centered, letting go of old fears. The holiday season approached, a test of our new dynamic. Mom called to ask what dish I'd bring to Christmas, not assigning one, a small but meaningful shift. I offered to make her favorite stuffing, my choice a gesture of love, not duty. Dad's questions about my work felt genuine, a sign he was seeing me anew. Lily declined Mom's unsolicited career advice at dinner, her quiet, "I've got this," a mirror to my own growth. These moments weren't perfect, old patterns flickered, but they were progress, a family learning to listen, to respect, to grow. As I stood in my apartment, the Seattle skyline glowing beyond, I felt lighter. My home was mine, not just in deed, but in spirit. A testament to the woman I'd become through Denver winters, Seattle dawns, and a stand that changed us all. Rebuilding wasn't easy, but it was honest. A chance to love my family without losing myself. Have you ever rebuilt a relationship on your own terms? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you're crafting a life that's truly yours. And let's keep this journey of connection going together. The Seattle twilight draped my Capitol Hill apartment in a gentle glow, the ivy-framed windows reflecting a city that had witnessed my transformation. I, Emma Carter, stood in my living room, my journal open on the secondhand bookshelf, its pages a tapestry of a journey that had redefined my family and myself. Months ago, a family dinner in Queen Anne where my parents, Margaret and Richard, announced that my sister Lily would move into my home had set off a chain of events. A plan to protect my space with James Patel's sublease, a confrontation, a coffee shop showdown at Pike Place Market, and a slow rebuilding of our relationships. Now, as I traced the contours of that path, I saw not just a victory over a boundary violation, but a deeper truth. By saying no to what diminished me, I'd said yes to a life that was truly mine, a home that held my heart and my hope. This journey had been forged in resilience. My apartment, with its exposed brick and morning light, was the fruit of 5 years of sacrifice-lit nights at a Denver coffee shop, tutoring to keep my University of Denver scholarship, every penny saved while friends partied in Miami. As the middle child, I'd been the Carter family's fixer. My summa cum laude degree and environmental analyst career met with a nod, while Lily's San Francisco art shows and Noah's whims were celebrated. Therapy with Dr. Ellis, my Fremont community garden, Sarah and Wynn's fierce support, and my journal had shown me I could break free. I'd protected my home with a San Francisco work trip, a security camera, and a vision board of Paris and Puget Sound. The Pike Place meeting had yielded apologies, a commitment to find Lily an apartment, and my proposal for a family reconciliation workshop. Our rebuilding, marked by Lily's therapy and Mom's tentative respect, was ongoing, a testament to love rooted in boundaries. Christmas dinner at my parents' house had been a milestone. Mom called ahead to ask what dish I'd bring, not assigning one, her voice soft with intention. I chose her favorite stuffing, a gesture of connection, not obligation. Dad greeted me with warmth, his questions about my work genuine, a sign he was seeing me beyond the compliant daughter. Lily, now settled in her modest one-bedroom, gently declined Mom's unsolicited advice, her quiet confidence mirroring my own. Noah shared a knowing glance when I voiced an opinion that diverged from family consensus, a nod to our shared evolution. The evening wasn't flaw-sold patterns flickered, Mom's overreach, Dad's subtle control, but we redirected, consciously choosing respect. As I drove home, the Seattle skyline sparkling, I felt grateful, not for perfection, but for progress. For a family learning to listen. My apartment, reclaimed after James's sublease, felt different now. Its walls, once threatened, held a new strength, a reflection of the woman I'd become. I ran my hand along the bookshelf, each book a choice I'd made, not an accommodation for others. My vision board, pinned with images of Paris, Puget Sound, and Lily's apartment, now included a Fremont mural I'd helped paint, a wave of resilience. My journal captured the shift. This home is mine, not just in lease but in spirit. I fought for it, and it fought for me. Writing was my anchor, turning reflection into revelation. I thought of Miss Rosa at the community garden, her words, "Your home is your roots," a truth I'd embodied. My roots were deep, nourished by courage and community. My anonymous blog, Rooted in Me, had grown, its readers from Chicago, Austin, and beyond, sharing stories of their own boundaries. "Your journey gave me strength to stand up to my family," one wrote. Their words, a mirror to my impact. The blog was a bridge, connecting me to a world that understood the cost and joy of self-respect. My book club, hosted in my living room with neighbors and James, was another bridge, a chosen family, discussing novels of resilience, their laughter filling the space I'd defended. "This apartment is you," James said, his smile warm. "It's alive with your story." His words echoed Sarah's, who'd texted, "You've built something beautiful, Em." Their faith, like my mindfulness, breathing inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhala for 8, kept me centered. The family reconciliation workshop loomed, a commitment we'd all made. I'd researched Seattle programs, finding one that emphasized honest communication, a space to unlearn old patterns. Lily was eager, her therapy fueling her desire for independence. Mom was cautious but open, Dad reserved but willing. The workshop was a seed, a chance to grow a family where boundaries were honored, where love didn't demand sacrifice. I wasn't naive, change was slow, requiring vigilance, but each small victory, declining to host Christmas, Lily's move, Mom's questions, built my confidence. The guilt I'd once carried for saying no had faded, replaced by pride in my voice, my choices, my life. A new dream was taking shape, a solo trip to New Orleans, planned for spring. I'd pinned a photo of Bourbon Street to my vision board, its vibrant chaos, a symbol of freedom. The trip was a reward, a celebration of the courage that had carried me through Denver winters, Seattle confrontations, and family dinners. I imagined strolling the French Quarter, jazz in the air, my heart light with the knowledge that I'd claimed my space, not just in my apartment, but in the world. The trip wasn't an escape, it was an embrace, a step into a life where I could explore, dream, and return to a home that was truly mine. My blog's latest post, "A Home Truly Mine," reflected this. Saying no to what diminished me opened doors to what fulfilled me. I wrote, "Boundaries aren't selfish, they're the foundation of love, for others and ourselves." Comments poured in. "You've inspired me to protect my space," a reader from Atlanta wrote. The virtual support group I'd joined had taught me boundaries were doors, and I was opening them wide to my family, my community, my future. The Fremont mural, the community garden, the book club, the workshop, they were threads in a tapestry of connection, woven with intention. As I stood in my living room, the Seattle skyline a canvas of possibility, I felt whole. My apartment was more than a place, it was a promise, a testament to the woman who'd fought for her roots and found her wings. The journey wasn't over. Family dynamics would always require care. But I'd learned that love and boundaries could coexist, that saying no could lead to a deeper yes to relationships built on respect, to a life built on truth. My home was mine, not because I'd won, but because I'd chosen it, every day, with every breath. Have you ever found strength in setting boundaries and discovered a truer connection? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you're building a life that's authentically yours. And let's keep this journey of courage and love going together. The Seattle skyline stretched beyond my Capitol Hill apartment, its lights a constellation of dreams earned through courage and conviction. I, Emma Carter, stood in my living room, the exposed brick walls and ivy-framed windows bearing witness to a journey that had transformed not just my home, but my heart. Months ago, a family dinner in Queen Anne had set this path in motion when my parents, Margaret and Richard, declared that my sister Lily would move into my apartment without asking. That moment, heavy with the weight of years as the overlooked middle child, ignited a spark of refusal to let my hard-won sanctuary be claimed. What followed was a story of resistance, resilience, and rebuilding, a testament to the power of boundaries and the possibility of love rooted in respect. As I reflect on this odyssey, I see not just a personal triumph, but a universal truth. Saying no to what diminishes us opens the door to a life that is truly ours. My apartment was more than a place. It was a symbol of 5 years of sacrifice-lit nights at a Denver coffee shop, tutoring to maintain my University of Denver scholarship, every penny saved while friends partied in Miami. As the middle child, I'd been the Carter family's fixer. My summa cum laude degree and environmental analyst career met with a nod while Lily's San Francisco art shows and Noah's whims were celebrated. I'd driven a reliable Toyota Corolla, maintained with care, while Lily received new cars and Noah's ventures were bankrolled. Therapy with Dr. Ellis had named this pattern, teaching me that my needs mattered. My journal, a canvas for raw truths, my Fremont community garden, where Miss Rosa's wisdom, "Your home is your roots," took root, and Sarah Nguyen's fierce support had shown me I could break free. When my parents' announcement threatened my space, I chose to fight, not with anger, but with strategy. The plan was meticulous. A San Francisco work trip to be absent, a sublease with James Patel to secure my apartment, a security camera to monitor, and a vision board of Paris and Puget Sound to remind me why. The day my family arrived, expecting compliance, they faced James and a security officer, my boundaries upheld by legal clarity. The fallout was brutal dad's threats, mom's guilt trips, Lily's rage, extended family's pressure, but I held firm, supported by Sarah, James, and neighbors' notes. My anonymous blog, Rooted in Me, and a virtual support group connected me to strangers who understood, their stories from Chicago to Austin affirming my stand. The tide shifted when Lily apologized, mom offered compromises, and dad searched for apartments, their softening a sign they were hearing me. The Pike Place Market coffee shop meeting was the crucible. I spoke my truth. Their assumption had hurt. My apartment was sacred. I needed respect. Lily's revelation that she thought I'd agreed cracked their united front. Dad admitted to overstepping. Mom promised to learn. And Lily's apology was genuine. We agreed to find Lily a home and explore a family reconciliation workshop, a seed for change. Rebuilding followed, not without setbacks. Mom's tentative questions, Dad's respectful distance, and Lily's therapy marked progress. Lily's move to a modest apartment, our lunch where she shared her struggles, and her choice to seek independence built a bridge between us. Christmas dinner, with Mom asking my dish preference and Dad's genuine interest, showed a family evolving, however slowly. My growth was the heart of this story. Declining to host Christmas, starting a book club with neighbors and James, painting a Fremont mural of resilience, these were acts of self-ownership. My blog grew, its readers a community of boundary setters. The reconciliation workshop loomed, a commitment to healthier dynamics. I planned a solo trip to New Orleans, a celebration of my courage, its jazz-filled streets a promise of freedom. My apartment, reclaimed, was truly mine, not just in lease, but in spirit. A sanctuary reflecting the woman I'd become through Denver winters, Seattle confrontations, and quiet dawns. The lesson of this journey is profound. Boundaries are not selfish. They are the foundation of authentic love. By saying no to my family's overreach, I said yes to relationships built on mutual respect. This wasn't about rejecting them. It was about honoring myself, creating space for us to connect as equals. The courage to stand firm, to choose strategy over surrender, showed that love doesn't require sacrifice of self. It requires honesty, patience, and the willingness to discomfort for growth. My family's shift from assumption to dialogue, from control to respect, proved that boundaries can heal, not harm, fostering bonds stronger for their truth. For you, living in today's fast-paced world, this lesson is vital. Whether you're navigating family expectations, workplace demands, or personal dreams, Setting boundaries is your right and your power. Start small. Say no to a request that drains you, like an extra shift when you need rest. Communicate clearly, as I did at Pike Place, stating your needs without guilt. Seek support friends like Sarah, communities like my book club or blog readers who affirm your worth. Use tools like journaling or mindfulness, as I did with my breathing exercises, to stay grounded. If family dynamics feel stifling, propose structured spaces like a workshop to rebuild. And dream big like my New Orleans trip, rewarding yourself for choosing you. Life will test your boundaries. Parents may push, siblings may assume, society may expect compliance. But each stand strengthens you. Your home, whether a physical space or your inner world, is your roots. Protect it, not with walls, but with doors you choose to open. My journey taught me that love and boundaries coexist, that saying no can lead to a deeper yes-to relationships that see you, to a life that's yours. As I stood in my apartment, the Seattle skyline a canvas of hope, I knew I'd built more than a home. I'd built myself, and that was the truest victory of all. Have you ever set a boundary that changed your life? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you're ready to build a life that's authentically yours. And let's keep this journey of courage and connection going together.